Welcome to another e-learning module. Our topic today is the famous management meeting and what exactly we need for it. I'm Patricia Meyer and I'm a senior campaign manager and also in charge of the training of the CMs here at EIMS. Okay, so what exactly are we going to enlighten you on today? The title of this module kind of gives it away. Today we will be looking at what exactly we need in place for a campaign to be approved in management meeting. And by doing so, we're going to address some of the biggest myths within EIMS. Trust me, they are as numerous as persistent. And of course, we want to give you good reason why this topic is so important. If you're watching this, chances are that you are somehow involved in getting a campaign approved in management meeting. With people being very inventive around this topic or sometimes just not up to speed yet in their job role, the variations of what we need for management meeting are numerous. From data and PO over PO and CBD to, oh, you just need to click through WMS. We have heard it all. So today's the day where we want to shed some light onto the documents needed for approval. This is important because with the approval in management meeting, operations will start planning resource for your project. They will look for the right resource, train and/or recruit, and they will plan them in for the start date. And to do this, they need the framework of the project 100% nailed and approved by all parties. This is also the moment where we commit to a definite start date to the client, and only then. After management meeting, we know when we can start the campaign, so if things keep changing around, we will not be able to meet our own deadline. Post-management meeting is also where the CM completes the setup, including systems, processes, and the training documents. Let me use an example. If you were to build a house, you usually agree a detailed plan with the architect. Then you get the builders in who will start their work. If your plan is not final and you keep changing things around, your builders have no idea what they're supposed to do, they will not have the right materials, and your house might end up looking like something completely different. So, we need certain things in place before we can reliably say, this is the project and yes, we can start planning now, including committing to start date. And here we go. What do we actually need? We mentioned before, we frequently hear things like, you need data and PO and then click through WMS. Wrong. Or we need data, CBD, PO. Kind of right, but not quite. Or just click through WMS. Very, very wrong. So here is what you want to have in place, and this applies to all campaign types. You need a WMS process launched and click through to approved by management team. The process will also help you with the steps you need to complete beforehand. You need the PO allocated in EIMS Manager and the CBD as well as the CTD approved by the client and operations. Yes, both documents, including a confirmation of approval. Next one is a big one. Sufficient suitable data in-house. And that means the initial data check carried out confirming that the data you have is good for the project. It is enough and it supports the campaign aim. Then you want the UDQs or your custom script created and approved by the client. And finally, where applicable, you need a commission plan template created, and this is usually AM task. If for any reason you want to fast track your campaign, so shorten the setup time frame, apart from all of the above, you need a fast track process launched in WMS and approved by all parties involved. It sounds a lot, yes, and people have tried to cut corners over and over again to please the client. But in many cases, it went completely wrong. And the time saved in the beginning was later spent firefighting. The reason why we insist on all of those steps completed is experience. We know that if we approve a campaign without those documents in place, things will start to go wrong very quickly. And instead of a delighted client because you started calling so quickly, you have a very pissed off client because their campaign is going pear-shaped. So a good reason to follow our guidelines. Things are similar for a custom campaign, and that can be Salesforce or the calling system. You need to have the same things in place as previously mentioned, plus some extras. And here they are. Your reporting spec needs to be created and approved. Guys, I cannot highlight enough the importance of a reporting spec on a custom campaign. You sit down with your client and you nail what they want to see on a weekly, monthly and quarterly basis. It might take you or LMS some time to figure out how to set this up, so make sure this is all agreed before management meeting. Which brings us to the PSO request, which needs to be launched to schedule in LMS work, where applicable. If they are involved, they need a clear brief before they can commit to any timeline, so you need this information before management meeting. So all necessary documents for the custom setup also need to be approved and received. For example, marketing files. And finally, any campaign type specific documents or templates need to be created and approved. That can be, for example, a development plan template for a channel energizer. What exactly those documents are can be found in the WMS process for that particular project type. That leaves us with one more scenario, the continuation. Probably the most overlooked type, as it is usually, oh, we're just going to continue calling. Great if you are. Then the process is quick and easy. But in any case, you should launch and follow the WMS continuation process, obviously only as applicable. Not applicable tasks can therefore just be skipped. And then the same applies as to new campaigns. Your PO needs to be allocated and sufficient, suitable data needs to be in-house. This is particularly important if you're upscaling the team. Sufficient data for 3 agents is very much insufficient data for 10 agents. So think about it. Any potential changes to script or UDQs need to be approved where applicable. And finally, your CBD and CTD, they must be updated in any case. Make sure that you create a new document for every new quarter and that you include any potential changes, be it a new main contact, a new result type added, a new product in the client's portfolio, or the target which has slightly changed. Every new quarter should have its own CBD and CTD with all the latest updates. You might have gathered by now that this whole process holds a range of pitfalls which most of us have fallen into. And this happens when people are trying to cut corners to just push their project through the management meeting. At this point, we want to make one thing really clear. Just clicking through WMS because you need to for management meeting without actually completing the tasks is a no-no. It is your name against the work item. So if you click that you have data when in fact you haven't, you might have to answer a few very unpleasant questions. Let's look at what can go wrong if we try to just wing our way through the management meeting. The first one has a major impact on the entire project. Wrong resource planned in. Imagine you tell Ops that you need a level 3 agent, but your campaign brief is not finalized yet. And all of a sudden, it turns out that what you really need is a level 5 agent, by which time you have already committed to a start date. Not recommended. The second pitfall goes with it. Changes still being made during setup because you are still in approval phase. And this will lead to unnecessary rework. The clock starts ticking from management meetings, so try to avoid any unplanned surprises for yourself and operations as best as possible. A big and important pitfall is a rushed setup with mistakes. I don't know how many campaign screw-ups I've seen, and I've committed myself, over the years because everything was rushed and nothing was clear when we approved the campaign. Trust me, you will spend the time anyway, either up front by planning properly or afterwards fixing things and calming down a very angry client. And we have left the best for last. Your team is ready, but your campaign is not, because you're still frantically trying to gather everything they need to start calling. So They are basically just booking time for days on end without actually calling. Imagine this for a team of 10, and you can just about guess the impact that this will have on the business. Let me give you a real-life example. I remember one CM at ERMS who received an email with data for a Russian campaign. She saw the email in her inbox with the attachment, so she confirmed, yes, data is there. The campaign got approved, the agent trained, and a few days before the kickoff, she wanted to format and load the data, only to realize that it was all in Cyrillic, so Russian characters, which the calling system couldn't load. So she spent the next days desperately trying to organize some data for the agent who was waiting for work and who was at that time just booking his time without producing anything. Something that could have been avoided had she checked the incoming data there and then. So make sure that your campaign is ready when your team is. And we're at the end of another module. Hopefully we've given you some good reasons to take the management meeting and its process seriously. Thanks for watching, and don't forget our little test.